some serious gourmet shit.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is ever for March 29th, 2024. Way late on that one. My name is Bernie Burns. Joining me right over there, Cougar in the sheets, Scottish Wildcat in the streets, Ashley Burns. How you doing? I love how much people picked up on the Scottish Wildcat. That noble beast, the Scottish Wildcat.
That ferocious hunter of birds and mice.
And little fuzzy bits of tissue.
Well, we made it to Friday. Is this Good Friday?
This is Good Friday, which is an odd name.
Because it seems like a bad Friday.
It's the basis for the religion, which is always shocking to me as we are heading into Easter weekend. Happy Easter to those of you who celebrate it. It's always shocking to me that Easter has somehow become second fiddle to Christmas, because Easter and what it celebrates is the basis for the entire religion.
Right, but as I understand it, I'm not highly religiously educated, but as I understand it, most of the Christian holidays crib on pagan holidays anyway, right?
Right. As I understand it, there's a rabbit that lays eggs. That's how I understand it.
It makes sense. But I assume that that's because just the Christmas solstice holiday was a major one. And so that's, I don't know, that's the one that like really, really stuck. Whereas,
well, when you say crib on it, what does that mean?
That they move timing for various, like it's like Christ's birthday, and everyone's like, yeah, no, it's not. But that's when they decided to celebrate it, because there was already a pagan holiday for the solstice, and so they just moved it on in there and sort of took it over.
I don't even know what a pagan is. I thumped my mic there pretty hard. What is a pagan just somebody who's not Christian?
Largely, yes. That's
Yeah.
I think that was the term that was used for basically anyone who is not following the approved religion, but specifically seems to refer to multi-god religions.
Yeah, okay.
Or religions that are less organized.
Oh, like they worship the Scottish Wildcat? That could be. We're starting a whole new pagan movement
something
here.
like that. But
tarot cards? Are tarot cards in there somewhere?
I don't know.
Runes?
Runes.
So there's these things in Scotland.
Fucking runes, man.
There's these things in Scotland that are really cool to us. When we first moved here, we decided, by the way, to change countries in April of 2020.
Well, we didn't. That's when we finally managed it.
Right. That's when we after 2 years, we landed on that date of changing in April of 2020. And one of the first things we discovered when we came here, and it was hardcore lockdown.
To the point where it was like, you should not be more than 5 miles from your house.
Yes. If you were crossing like the equivalent of county lines in the U.S., it was totally fair game for a cop to stop you and go, "Why are you out on the highway? What are you doing? Where are you going?" But what we could do is we found out about these things called Pictish stones, which the Picts, I think we've described them before as the, would it be fair to call them pagans at this point? Former residents of Scotland, the blue-faced guys.
Did you know, Bernie, that they invented egg-laying rabbits?
They didn't invent them, Ashley. They discovered them. They have these carvings that they do, and you can learn how to read them. It's almost like ancient carvings, and they find these stones randomly, these Pictish stones all over. And then if people find them, they will usually put them on display, and you get a guidebook and go around and look at the different Pictish stones. And that is something that nobody was doing at that point in time. So we could go to like little small churches here or there, or cemeteries, and you'd see gravestones that are older than the entire United States of America.
Yeah, but that also describes like half the houses here.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. It's wild. But yeah, but going and looking at Pictish stones was something that we did early on, and I was just reminded of that. Yeah.
It's our own personal pagan ritual. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, to the point where they were like carving like some of the symbols are for elephants, which I assume are woolly mammoths. I'm assuming,
that seems like a stretch. I would assume. I don't know. Did Romans have elephants?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, but why would someone in northern Scotland be like carving an elephant though?
Maybe they went on a vacation and they couldn't do a slideshow for all their neighbors. So instead they just carved them a really cool stone. And then they had to sit down and they all had to be like, all right, show us your cool stone of your vacation.
It's going to turn out to be something totally mundane too. Like it was an advertisement for a circus coming through or something like that. Because we always assume like if we go back beyond like a couple hundred years, everyone is completely barbaric. And then we keep finding out like, oh no, they had houses and they had language and they had
medicine and they had all these great things. And
have you ever heard what the oldest translated form of writing is? Like the evidence of writing?
Yeah, wasn't it someone complaining about a bill?
It was. They were complaining about the quality of copper that they got in an order. It's so relevant. And it was like, yeah, where's my refund, bitch?
Well, speaking of complaints.
This sounds like something for next follow-up Friday.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll learn a lot between now and then. It is one of the things that I like is anytime there's something that we don't know, which there's a lot of.
We don't have to keep hammering on that point, though.
No, but there's a lot of things like we don't know or we wonder about something, and a lot of people in the community are able to be like, I specialize in this, and here is what I've learned. For example, we've been talking a lot about container ships this week, and wondered why they don't fall off ships more often. And it turns out it's because they kind of are secured to each other. There's something called a twist lock.
Yeah.
That secures them to one another vertically. And then there are also these cables that they can put on the first few levels to stabilize those initial levels to try to keep it tight.
So they lock together individually. They clamp together, and then they only secure the first few rows going up.
And then beyond that, I think they rely on just sort of the initial stabilization at the bottom.
You build a good foundation.
And then build up.
Yeah, and I suppose if they do get in a situation where stuff starts to tip and go over, that they probably don't want it like tied to everything else and everything
goes over.
Yeah.
Right.
I would assume. I don't know. I've never packed a 10,000 container ship before. That's wild.
No, but look, you've done a great job Tetrising the trunk of a car.
I'm great at that. I'm really great at that. It makes me wonder though, the dolly, the one that hit the Baltimore Bridge this week, it was running at 4,700 containers, if memory serves, and could do 10,000, which is just, it's running at 47% capacity, right? So wonder why. What's going on?
Well, it was leaving port. It might stop in other places and pick things up.
It was also leaving the U.S. I wonder if we're just not exporting as much as we're importing, like if it was on the way in.
Likely.
I assume it was leaving the U.S. It must have been, right?
It was leaving. It was leaving. Well, it was leaving the port.
Anyway, some other things. This is Follow-Up Friday. If you're just joining us for the first time, Ashley and I like to go over some topics we discussed over the week and some things we put pins in, like somebody who I have a bone to pick with, which I started talking about this.
You know what? You pick that bone. I'm going to fight you on this.
So I was promising lamb footage to people, and I started posting lamb footage, and then I took what is potentially the best lamb footage I've ever taken in my life. And Ashley said as I got into the car with her, she goes, I'm taking that for the Morning Somewhere socials. And I said, how dare you? How dare you? Somebody said, okay, sure. And then she didn't post it.
You know why? Remember, I asked you to put it on our share.
Yes.
And it's not there. You didn't put it on the share.
I attempted to put it on the share.
Well, you didn't put it on the share.
Well, if only a follow-up would have happened. Here I am having to do the follow-up.
It sounds like this Follow-Up Friday meeting was the perfect place to do that, and we've done so.
The Holy Grail is my Scottish Wildcat footage. When I get that, you're not touching that. We used to do a thing back in the old podcast days where it really started to affect, I felt like, relationships because we would start to talk about something interesting and somebody would stop somebody else say, hey, talk to me about this on the podcast. And Ashley and I said before we started this, we're definitely not going to do that. And I'm glad that we don't do that. This is like the first little evidence of that old world to me of
that you waited to pick the bone?
No. That you were like, I had something I wanted to post and you said, no, give it to me to post on the Morning Somewhere Instagram. I assume that's where you're going to post it. Right?
Yes. And I was going to try to post it up immediately, but I haven't got the footage.
And while we're talking about things that are being posted online, we'll talk about the Red versus Blue trailer, which came out. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yes, when we talk about new stuff,
current events.
Speaking of pins, there was one thing I wanted to come back to. We had our discussion yesterday. We were talking about a lot of Scottish wildlife. One of those things we were talking about was midges and bats.
Midges and bats.
And the reason that we were talking about those two together is because we are very lucky right where we live. We don't really have a lot of midges, but the reason we don't have a lot of midges is because we have a lot of bats. I went and looked up this
You
stat.
think now you can say this is correlation. This is why this is it.
Yeah, I'm making the correlation.
Okay, here we go.
Because I went and looked it up, and a pipistrelle bat, which is a really, one of the common types of bats. I assume that's one of the types
Seems
that we have
prissy
here.
to me. I'm a pipistrelle.
They eat like 3,000 midges in a feeding session.
Greedy.
So if you have a large bat colony nearby, they're going to eat the midges.
That's great.
I think that's why we're so lucky. So I am on team bat.
While we're talking about other stuff related to Scotland, I did say there's nothing poisonous in the UK. Have we talked about before that the UK is rabies free? I think we talked about that with moving Mush over.
I think we've mentioned it in the process of moving Mush and why he had to get rabies shots and all this stuff.
And it also makes cohabitating with bats a lot more palatable. But there are adders here, which are actually not poisonous. They're venomous snakes. Somebody at the subreddit pointed out their pet peeve is poisonous means it'll kill you if you eat it, or it'll hurt you if you eat it. And venomous means it has like venom and bites you.
That if it bites you, you get hurt.
Like that.
It eats you, you get hurt. Poisonous is you eat it, you get hurt.
A little pedantic, but that's the way. That's what pet peeves are, man. They're peeves. They're like little midges in your brain.
Yeah, one of my peeves was always the there. But I've lost that one. I don't correct people on it because one, I don't need to spend my time that way, and two, I've lost that fight. People on the internet use their however phonetically you choose.
Adders are here. They're not that common. In fact, you can go on a website and track like every single adder bite in the UK. And in general, like venomous animals, we kind of overdo it. Like, when was the last time you think someone was killed by a black widow spider?
I don't know. Last year.
Black widow spider bites are rare because these spiders naturally hide and won't come after you. In the United States, no deaths due to black widows have been reported to the American Association of Poison Control Centers since 1983.
Wow.
So I would say probably in the lifetime of most people listening to this podcast, sorry to anyone older than that, I'm with you, no black widow deaths. But they call this thing the black widow, and you hear black widows, you assume they're killing people all the time. They're just not.
Now I assume that they're sexy.
Do you know what the deadliest animal in the U.S. is?
Deer.
Yeah.
Deer. I did hear that one because they're just really good at getting hit.
And jumping.
It's their specialty, as it were.
Jumping right before they get hit, so they tend to like go into windshields and stuff like that.
And kick you in the face.
Not good stuff. I had one other thing I want to talk about. We're talking about adders. We're talking about that. The guy with the strawberry. I said that the BBC reporter went and ate a 125-pound strawberry or something, or $125 strawberry. The strawberry that he ate in Japan was 350 pounds because we linked it yesterday in the link dump.
That's a very expensive way.
That is over a $400 strawberry. And apparently from his reaction, it's completely worth it.
That's like the people that like eat gold.
Well, a lot of people do. There's Goldschlager, they do that, right?
Is there actual gold in Goldschlager?
Yeah, it's gold flake. They put on desserts and stuff. That's what makes gold. Like, there's not much gold in the world. I've always heard the stat that all the gold ever mined in the not in the history of the world, but what we have now, because I'm sure some of it's been lost, would fill
people ate it.
All the gold in the world would fill mined gold, would fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and that's it.
It's weird because that seems like a lot. A swimming pool seems like a lot, and also not a lot. But when you think about all the things that gold would be used for, it's surprising that there's not more than one swimming pool.
That's it. It's very malleable. You can stretch it super, super thin. So you can turn, like if you took a bar of gold, you could turn that, flatten it out, and turn it into an incredibly large surface area.
It makes a lot of desserts.
So you can have your gold flake on your desserts. You fucking lunatics out there doing that. Well, we're throwing all these weird, obscure facts, and you were talking about the their thing.
Yeah.
I learned something recently, which is on my mind because I've been watching Three Body Problem. And I learned this, and I don't actually know if it's true, but I can't really find anything to debunk it. So our system of planets and our star make up a what?
Solar system.
We're in a solar system. What is the next closest solar system?
Alpha Centauri?
That is incorrect. There is no other solar system. We are in the solar system because our star is Sol. So this is the solar system.
So the other one would be the Alpha Centauri system.
It's a planetary system or a star system. But calling anything else a solar system is incorrect because that's a proper noun, which is the name of our star system. I heard this at like 45, and I had never made that connection before.
I mean, I'm going to say yes and no as far as how that actually gets used, because like I'm sure other stars have solar flares.
And I'm sure it derives from some Greek or Latin term, which means star, right? Not the name of the star.
Right. And we might just be uncreative. And they're like, what's that? That's a star. I shall name him Star.
And like saying star system is essentially the same thing as saying solar system, right? It's just
Right.
like pedantic, like you said. But I thought that was interesting. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, is that true? That we live in the solar system and there's no other solar systems because that's the name of our guy.
It's just, this is our solar system.
This is it. We're in the solar system. And once you leave, no more solar systems. This is it. That's all you got. Got just this one.
There's one thing that I want to follow up on as well. And this is from, I think, the beginning of the week. But I wrote a little note to myself. We were talking about The Gentleman. Speaking of the three-body problem, we were talking about The Gentleman earlier this week. And Guy Ritchie super cast member, Vinnie Jones, is part of this. Do you know another role that you would never expect Vinnie Jones to have played?
I have
Besides
no
Juggernaut.
idea. Oh, he was the live-action Little Mermaid.
You are surprisingly close in that he has been in a musical singing and
What?
dancing. Yes.
Get out of here.
Yes, Vinnie Jones in a musical, a fantasy musical singing and dancing. It's called Gallivant. This was like, I love this show. And
Vinnie Jones singing and dancing.
Vinnie Jones singing and dancing. So he plays the kind of role that you would expect in the show. He's like the king's bodyguard. But he's in the show, and this is a full-on musical extravaganza. I cannot recommend the show Gallivant enough. The premise is there's guy and the girl fall in love. King rides in, sees girl is pretty. He decides he's going to carry her off and marry her. And so our hero does everything he can to go after her, to interrupt the wedding. And he does. He gets there, and he's like, I object. And she goes, no, I want to stay with the king. King's rich. And that's where the series kicks off.
Really?
Yeah.
So how startling is it to see Vinnie Jones singing and dancing? Like on the Hugh Jackman scale, the first time you see that. Is it above that for startling?
I mean, I would say it's more startling, but it's so much fun. That entire show is so much fun.
I mean, I think a lot of people in the world got introduced to Hugh Jackman's career as Wolverine, like the early Sony movies.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you learn that he is a singing and dancing stage star. Ryan Gosling too, by the way. Ryan Gosling was a kid actor. He has like...
He was one of the Disney kids, wasn't he?
Was he one of the
He
Disney
was like a Mouseketeer?
Was he really?
I think he was a Mouseketeer.
That's fantastic.
But Hugh Jackman he's now quite well known for it because he did what was a Greatest Showman and that kind of thing. He's done a lot of Broadway stuff.
Yeah.
And I think has diversified himself away from being Wolverine. But for a while there, that was like he was Wolverine, Wolverine was he.
He was an Australian Disney kid. They call him the Wee Wombats. Down there. The little Joeys. Yeah, but that was shocking the first time I saw Hugh Jackman singing and dancing. It was so this would be probably, I think, like 2.5 Jackmans on that scale. If I saw Vinnie Jones, who would be the most surprising person to see doing a dance number in a musical?
He's pretty close to the top of the list just because it's so hard to imagine that. But let's see.
What if the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight turned into a musical, like in the middle of it? Like it's in the contract that they have to do one musical number. They have to do an ABBA song together. Dancing Queen.
Wow. Okay.
Well, we're going a little bit long here,
On
but it's
that
Friday.
note,
Can we go longer on Friday?
Let's go longer on Friday. Let's have a Friday thon.
But going on to what's going on today. What else? Well, we said we talk about Red versus Blue. The Red versus Blue restoration trailer came out yesterday, and I want to say thank you to everybody who sent such lovely notes about it, and all the likes and everything like that. It's been great. I'm really excited that thing will be coming out. And when I wrote it, gosh, year and a half ago, almost now, I had no idea that this thing was going to be landing at the point in time when it was going to be coming out. So I'll just say, took some risks on it, because it was the end chapter. I think I've said before, it's like parts of it are even a little bit whimsical, But I do think this has turned out to be a very appropriate time for this particular chapter to be coming out, I think.
The trailer it looks fun. I'm pretty excited about it. It is kind of bittersweet as well.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But it's nice to have the trailer out there.
21 years that show will have been running. 21 years.
A lot
That's
of years.
crazy. That's
a lot
crazy.
of years, a lot of seasons.
Yeah. Sorry we couldn't get more out of it. Just 21 years. All right, what else is going on in the world, Ashley?
Completely different sort of segment of the world, but Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX guy, he got sentenced.
Did I read this right? Is that all of his sentences was 25 years?
He was sentenced to 25 years in prison for stealing billions of dollars from his customers and has to repay $11 billion.
Yeah, no, it makes me wonder too. If we can, let's extract all the morality out of this. Like extract all the people who were actually damaged by what he did. Let's kind of remove them from this equation and say, if you could live like a billionaire for 10 years, would that be worth doing 25 years in prison?
The question...
whatever prison he's going to.
Clarifying question for me would be, do I live like a billionaire before or after?
Oh, that's interesting. Let's assume it's before, because that's what he did. Would you live like a billionaire? Say 10 years, you can live like a billionaire for the next 10 years, but then as soon as it's up, boom.
If you ask 25-year-old me, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
Because 25-year-old me doesn't give a shit about 35-year-old me.
No.
She doesn't. She's never going to exist anyway. I'm immortal.
Yeah.
So I'll take the 10 years and then spend the next 25, which whatever, I'll be old anyway. You'll ask, 40-year-old me, and I would much rather do the 25 up front.
You'd rather do the 25 up front and be a billionaire when you're 40, 65?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, well, because now I'm taking the longer view of things, and I was an asshole anyway, so I probably deserved it.
Yeah. But also it's kind of like, I don't know. I have read that he's not going to like one of these country club prisons that where did they actually put him? Didn't they put him in San Quentin or something like that? Or Sing Sing or something? Is that the same prison?
Sing Sing.
I'm not up on my prisons.
Oh, well, the judge said that he's recommending that he be placed in a medium security facility. So I'm guessing that you're right. That indicates not exactly the country club. He's not going to be in the Martha Stewart of prisons. But they do have, like double fences and detection systems and cell-based housing and that kind of thing. But they're not going to be as locked down as like the high max security places.
I just remember though, at the time they were, when he was being held before his sentencing, that they made a big deal about the fact that he wasn't going to some cushy prison. So,
well, it might be as well because remember the Theranos lady, Elizabeth Holmes? She's been held in like a country club type prison. So maybe they were trying to be very clear that that's not what was happening with him.
Is she? Yeah. Okay.
Is she? Yeah. She's an interesting one as well because she only got 11 years.
We'll look at it for next week, but the FTX one was a really interesting collapse because it was the first time that I had ever seen. They had a Super Bowl commercial, and it was the first time I had ever seen people then start to go after these celebrity endorsers who were hired for commercials and campaigns. And I'll leave people's names specifically out of it until I actually read about this, but we'll talk about that next week. Maybe next follow-up Friday we'll talk about. All right, Ashley, anything else to talk about?
I hope everyone has a great weekend, having Easter egg hunts and all kinds of, I hope you find your egg-laying bunny.
I hope you find your egg-laying bunny.
If you get any sightings in the wild, send us the footage. We'll forget to post it to Instagram.
Just looking behind the woolly mammoth, if that's where you want to look for an egg-laying bunny. All right, have a great Easter for those of you who celebrate it. And for those of you who don't, just have a great weekend. We will be back to talk to you on Monday. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.